top stories on Sky World News this morning. Ted Cruz has announced he is ending his campaign for the US presidency. He told supporters of his decision shortly after Donald Trump won the crucial Indiana primary. Mr. Trump's victory leaves the way open for him to secure the Republican nomination. And Bernie Sanders is beating Hillary Clinton to take Indiana to the Democrats. Okay, I'm joined by the political scientist, Professor Peter Mathews now, who's in Long Beach, California. Professor, thank you so much for talking to us. Let me also mention that you're the author of the book Dollar Democracy, With Liberty and Justice for Some, How to Reclaim the American Dream for All. Let's talk about what happened today. Were you surprised by Ted Cruz's announcement?
Just a very little surprise, but I saw the sweep that Trump beat him by 13 points or more. And I knew Ted Cruz had to come up with some big announcement, and this was it. It wasn't totally unexpected, because he has no chance at all of catching Trump. Trump's only less than 200 delegates behind the actual magic number of 1,237. He's just less than 200 delegates behind. You can get that in California and also New Jersey. He's very strong in New Jersey and northeastern states and California. So I'm sure Trump's going to be the Republican nominee now at this point. It's very interesting to see what's going to happen when he runs against Hillary or Bernie, possibly.
Well, let's talk about Trump and what he had to say today after Cruz's announcement. There were fighting words, but he seemed very subdued. Do you think he's exhausted, or he's just changing his tone, or both?
He's not exhausted. That's a man with a lot of energy, and I think he's changing his tone. He wants to reach out to a wider base of support, including Cruz supporters, that he wants to back him. And he wants to reach some of those Reagan Democrats. And by the way, about 60,000 Democrats in Pennsylvania re-registered Republican and voted for Trump in the Pennsylvania primary. So there's a danger for Hillary there if she wins. And that is, how can she hold on to the Democratic base when Trump is talking against free trade? He's for fair trade. He says he's against TPP, the Trans-Pacific Partnership. So he's trying to grab some of the Democratic positions, Trump is. And that's why many Republicans don't like that. They say he's not a true Republican, but in the end, he might become a right-wing populist that gains a lot of support across the party lines. And that's really a danger, in a sense, from a Democratic perspective. That's why Hillary has to really work hard. If she can win and take the nomination, she's got to be able to bring Bernie supporters aboard. And yet Bernie thinks he can still win it by getting superdelegates to switch over to his side, because both of them, he says, may not have enough delegates with the pledged delegates. So it could be a brokered or a locked convention when we get to July as well on the Democratic side. So all of it's very dynamic and really interesting for people like me to look at and analyze.
But it was very interesting listening to Trump. He seemed today to really want to appeal to all aspects of the Republican Party. But do you think he's going to be able to unite them?
It's going to be very tough. A lot of the Republican leadership, that's the establishment Republicans, such as the Koch brothers and people who are in office already, they're very loath to support Trump because they feel that he could be a disaster for the down-ticket races for Congress and the House and the Senate, that Republicans could lose there if the Trump is at the top of the ticket. So they may work actually behind the scenes to try to defeat him or to get Hillary some support. I've heard some of the talk that some of these establishment types, like Brent Scowcroft and other foreign policy people, are just scared to death of what Trump might do in foreign policy because, first of all, he has no experience. Secondly, we don't know where he's going to go with foreign policy because he's very volatile in his pronouncements about what should be done with the rest of the world. That's why some of them might behind the scenes work with Hillary or Bernie if Bernie gets nominated. I think Bernie would be the safest bet for a lot of people in terms of what will happen in the world if he captures the nomination and wins the election. By the way, Bernie's polls are showing that he wins a higher percent of the vote against Trump than Hillary does, quite a bit higher. Hillary's actually tied with Trump in some polls. Bernie's about 20% higher and winning and beating Trump by 20% or so in the hypothetical one-on-one matchup. So it's all very dynamic right now and ever changing.
So where do we go from here? Will the Republicans actually practically be able to block Trump becoming the nominee?
No. In my view, they're not going to be able to do that. But what will happen is the establishment Republicans, the leadership of the party that are scared to death of having a Trump, they would rather lose to Hillary than to have a Trump in there. And so they're going to try everything they can to stop him. And yet, that's going to split the party in the end. But Trump will reach out to more segments of voters, including disaffected, anti-establishment people who lost their jobs, especially a lot of white working class voters who are very resentful of what they say is illegal immigration, they're worried about Muslims and all this. Trump is using a lot of scare tactics and divide and conquer tactics, but he'll be able to garner more support that way, unfortunately, unless Hillary or Bernie can come up with a very good message. And I think that's very possible as well, that they could stop him in that way. But Trump has a very high potential of getting in new people into the party to back him, even if some Republicans leave him this time around.
Thank you very much. Author and political scientist there, Professor Peter Mathews, joining us from Long Beach.